Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Sam Evans and you're watching The Electric Singularity. If you're new, great to have you here. Check out some of my other videos. There's more than 150 videos on the channel already. If you're not, welcome back guys. Now, many of you have been commenting about the state of Australia's fast charging market. Obviously, there are many millions of power points in Australia to charge your EV on, but doing it that way is very slow. So, most of the charging for an EV will of course happen at home. That to me is one of the big advantages of having an EV, aside from all the cost advantages as well. But what about when you go on a road trip? What about when you want to drive a long way? What about when you go on a long day trip? Well, you need a fast charger. If you don't buy a Tesla, you're kind of stuck. Well, you were. I can tell you now, guys, no need to fear. It's happening now. The rollout of fast chargers in Australia, as I have said to some of my friends, will happen regardless of what our idiotic government decides to do. Our government are muppets. Don't worry about what they do. It doesn't really matter because private business are intelligent. Private business invest their money where they can make money, and EVs and electric is the future, and they know this. The private sector know this, and they're investing a lot of money. I found this information out today on an article that was more about BYD. Stick with me here. I'm going to share it with you. St. Baker's $20 million to boost $35,000 electric car rollout. Well, Australia should join the world in electrifying the transport sector. Energy investor Trevor St. Baker said after sinking $20 million into True Green Mobility to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles. Now, True Green Mobility are the owners of Nextport. Nextport is the Australian distributor of BYD. Now, True Green Energy are not just distributing BYD vehicles in Australia. That would be doing them an incredible disservice to say that's all they're doing. They are certainly not. They're spending well over $700 million on a plant, an electrification plant in New South Wales, where they will build a range of things, not just sell BYD vehicles. They'll be building buses and other electrification for the transport and energy sectors. Now, the deal between the St. Baker Energy Innovation Fund and True Green Mobility, which invests in electric vehicles and aims to list on the Australian Securities Exchange within the next 12 months, is being touted as a strategic alliance to encourage drivers to buy electric cars and vans. Now, guys, I'll just interrupt you here because the IPO for True Green Mobility will happen in around about 12 months. I'll keep you up to date on what's happening here because I think this could be a huge opportunity for Australian investors to get in on what could potentially be one of the biggest EV and car companies in Australia by 2030. In fact, I'm going out on a limb and I'm going to say it. I think this is a huge investment opportunity and it will not be there for long. I think within 12 months after the IPO, the shares will have gone up at an enormous rate because people will start to recognize how well BYD vehicles are selling on the market. There'll be a lot of excitement about that, and all of a sudden up they'll go. Now, hopefully the IPO happens before this point and you and I can invest in the company and make some money. Now back to the video. True Green Mobility, which is raising about $110 million in a pre-IPO funding round through Goldman Sachs, holds the rights to exclusively distribute electric cars and small vans made by Chinese manufacturing group BYD, which is backed by US billionaire investor Warren Buffett. Now guys, if you don't know, Warren Buffett actually bought around about 10% of BYD over a decade ago. And he has made a metric shit ton of money from that investment. He's held on to that investment. It's now been diluted down to 8.4% in value. However, he has never sold any of those shares. And remember, Berkshire Hathaway, they're basically day traders. They buy and sell shares every day. This is obvious by their trading record. And yet, they have never sold even a single share, not even one share of BYD. What does that tell you? So, True Energy through Nextport are marketing the vehicles on a website As you know, I provided a link to that website many times where you can go and pre-order. You need to pre-order now, guys. Obviously it's a pre-order. You can't actually put money down, but put your name down right now if you want one of these vehicles. Otherwise, you're not going to get one. It's just, there's going to be too much demand for them. Anyway, they're opening a customer experience center in Sydney in late June. True Green Mobility Chief Executive Luke Todd said the most crucial part of the agreement was the relationship formed with Mr. St. Baker's fast charging company, EV Networks. And here we get to the meat of the video. EV Networks, what are they about? Well, let's find out. The key reason why people haven't moved across en masse to EVs is charging range anxiety. True. Mr. Todd told the Australian Financial Review, adding that the partnership with EV Networks would help True Green Mobility sell electric cars and vans because we have the charging aspect now covered. It's happening quickly. I'm telling you, it's going to be faster than you think. Pre-sales for BYD electric cars, which will be priced just under $35,000, start in August and deliveries will begin in March 2022. Now guys, we now know the T3 van will cost under $35,000, so it is my prediction that the EA1 in base model spec will cost under $30,000. Would you buy a Toyota Corolla, petrol, or would you buy an EA1 electric car with a blade battery? Well, we already know people are buying the MG EV at an incredible rate that nobody predicted. The same thing will happen with the EA1. And what will continue to happen after businesses see the adoption of electric cars, they see the writing on the wall, more and more businesses similar to this company here will invest in fast charging networks at a very, very, very fast scale to get in first. So, electric BYD vans will be available sooner than this date. They'll be available in around about September this year. Mr. Todd said there was pent-up demand from businesses for electric transport and that True Green Mobility expected to sell thousands of small vans nationally. Roger Whitby, CEO of Mr. St. Baker's Fund, said the $20 million financial injection was a relatively small token of collaboration and that the fund would spend tens or hundreds of millions of dollars expanding EV Networks' public charging sites. They're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars expanding EV Networks' public charging sites. And they said $20 million was nothing but a small token of their collaboration. Okay, so these guys are big, guys. If you didn't already know this, True Green are backed by a range of multi-millionaires. Some of the investors in the company are worth over $500 million. And these guys are going big because they know this is the future, right? There's a lot of wealthy people in Australia that know there's going to be an enormous disruption of the petrol, diesel, gas-powered market, coal-fired power stations, enormous disruption of the energy market. This is happening now, and they're looking for ways to invest. EV charging are doing this as well. Now, EV Networks already has 43 high-speed chargers in Australia that can give a car 350 kilometers of range within 10 minutes, and they plan to add hundreds more in metropolitan areas over the next 2 years. They're already working on this now. It looks for sites where people can shop or get takeaway food while they wait for their electric vehicles to charge, including fuel stations, fast food outlets, and shopping centres, and they have considered over 3,500 sites all across Australia already. Of course, they don't all make the grade, but we've got an engine going to identify and qualify those sites, Ms. Whitby said. So EV Networks has created some sort of algorithm. You can call this a version of their own AI. Very simplified version of AI, but it doesn't matter, does it? If it suits the purpose and works, that's all that matters. Which will identify the best possible areas to put their charging stations. Now, Australia should toughen its emissions laws to lower pollution and encourage people to switch to electric vehicles, Mr. St. Baker said. If Australia isn't welcoming EVs, they'll be marketed to other places. The St. Baker investment comes less than a week after Tritium, an electric vehicle fast charger technology company that is also supported by the St. Baker Energy Innovation Fund, said it would list on the US's NASDAQ stock exchange with a $2 billion plus valuation, thanks to a deal with a US blank check company. Mr. St. Baker, while perhaps best known for his stake in a coal power generator in New South Wales, is a long-standing advocate for EV for electrification of transport and also backs startups in sectors such as wearable light patches for pain relief and printed light. In e-mobility, the St. Baker Fund is focused on investing in electric rather than hydrogen vehicles because it wanted to be doing business now rather than investing in future possibilities or dreams. They like to invest in reality. Sorry if you like hydrogen. It's not the future. The big important thing is to clean up our cities and to get zero gasoline emissions. Mr. Whitby said Australia had fallen a long way behind most of the rest of the world on EVs and that the partnership with True Green Mobility offered a full solution to drivers. Good quality vehicles at a really affordable prices and the infrastructure for public charging or depot charging wherever they need it. The fund will have a board seat on True Green Mobility. The adoption of EVs has been notoriously slow in Australia, hampered by high prices, a limited range of models, worries about access to infrastructure and range anxiety, and no incentives from governments at all. However, as we know, that has recently started to change. True Green Mobility, a spin-out from impact investment firm True Green Impact Group, already makes the bodies of electric buses in New South Wales and Victoria. Its electric bus subsidiary Nextport plans to deliver some 200 electric buses to the New South Wales government by the end of the year. It plans to use the St. Baker's Fund's investment to set up an office and a bus manufacturing facility in Queensland over the next few months to complement its manufacturing facility in New South Wales. It has delivered 2 electric buses to the Queensland government so far this year. True Green Mobility has also teamed up with Chinese company Photon, which has already sold more than 600 hydrogen buses in China, to create a new company, Photon Mobility. The group is making 4 45-seat hydrogen buses capable of carrying 65 passengers, including people standing in China, to ship to Australia. Now, guys, there's one more important fact that we haven't yet considered on top of this information. Remember, what is the fastest selling vehicle this year? What has rocketed up the sales charts faster than any other vehicle on the market? The MG EV. The MG EV costs $44,000. BYD will soon bring out a similarly priced EV, which I believe is a much better and much nicer vehicle, called the BYD Tang. They'll rename it for Australia, obviously, but that will be the car coming to our market. BYD obviously are unleashing a series of vehicles in Australia. Now, if you think that investors and companies with a lot of money are not paying attention to the fact that MG has sold a stratospheric number of EVs, even though they're a completely unknown brand in Australia and an untrusted brand in Australia, there is no way for these buyers to know if MG will exist in 2025 or 2030 and what happens to their warranties then. No. Lots of people think this way. Lots of people are very worried about things like that. And yet, sales are skyrocketing. Obviously, investors are taking note. This is just one of a number of companies currently building out fast charging networks all over Australia. Now, don't forget Tesla. Tesla matter. Tesla will take a huge number of shares in the Australian market. The Model Y and Model 3 will drastically decrease in price within 12 months in Australia as we get more and more vehicles from China and as Tesla's marketing business operations create higher margins, which they are setting out to do with their stamping plants, with their battery manufacture, with a range of things they're doing. Obviously, Tesla also has to compete with other EV manufacturers in Australia. Prices will come down. Market share continue to increase for Tesla. Market share will jump for BYD and MG. MG are also bringing out a hatchback. In 12 months from now, EV sales in Australia will have increased by a minimum of 500%. I've done the maths on this. I've done the figures. That is a fact. Now, obviously, other businesses are looking for opportunities in the market. There is a lot of cash floating around. You can't get good returns on cash, so people are looking to invest. This is just the start. EV charging networks are going to spread around Australia like wildfire within the next 24 months. I said it, it's going to happen. Come back in 2 years, we'll see if it did. Let's have a quick look at the state of Australia's fast charging network right now. Now, as you all know, Tesla's supercharger network does exist in Australia. Tesla's network consists of two types of charger. There are superchargers and Tesla destination chargers. Compatible exclusively with Tesla vehicles, superchargers in Australia can currently charge at a peak rate of 120 kilowatt. Overseas, Tesla has introduced version 3 superchargers that can charge more than twice as fast with a peak rate of 250 kilowatt. Those will soon appear in Australia. As their name suggests, destination chargers are located at destinations where customers will use a parking spot for an extended period of time, such as hotels, shopping centres, etc. As the expectation is customers will park their cars for a longer period of time, destination chargers take longer to charge your vehicle. The output of these destination chargers depends varied on your location. The current supercharger network is spread across the eastern seaboard from the Sunshine Coast all the way down to Melbourne and at regional centres such as Goulburn, Nowra, Bathurst, Bendigo and Ballarat. There are currently 3 stations. Each station contains multiple plugs in South Australia, including in Adelaide, while the west is served by one in Eaton, south of Perth. Tesla destination chargers are more widespread and feature in all Australian states and territories, including in Tasmania. Geographic spread is primarily Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and ACT, with 3 stations in South Australia and 1 in Western Australia. Number: there are 36 supercharger stations currently available, with another 17 planned. Note each supercharger station does include multiple plugs. Peak charging currently for these supercharger stations is 120 kilowatt, but future stations will more than likely have higher kilowatt peak charging. Cost: approximately 52 cents per kilowatt hour. However, this varies over time and locations. Compatibility: exclusive to Tesla vehicles. Now guys, on cost I believe will decline in future as global costs of energy continue to decrease, and they will drastically decrease over the coming 10 to 20 years. So, there is also Australian Motoring Services. The state-based Australian Motoring Services have invested in various electric charging networks and companies such as Chargefox and Tritium, who we'll talk about later, to build a network of DC rapid charging stations across the country. The NRMA branded network stretches from northern New South Wales near Byron Bay down towards Albury and west through Hay into South Australia. It offers charging speeds up to 50 kilowatt across thoroughfares such as Sydney's Great Western Highway, and has announced it will be partnering with the New South Wales Government to deliver at least an additional 20 fast chargers in key regional centres. Queensland's equivalent, the RACQ, is partnering with energy company Eureka and the Queensland Government to deliver 13 new charging stations on what is known as the Queensland Electric Vehicle Superhighway, stretching from Cairns down to the Gold Coast and Coolangatta. Geographic spread: Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, ACT and Tasmania. There are more than 44 fast chargers in New South Wales. Numbers vary in other states. Peak charging speed is a very slow 50 kilowatt. Cost varies based on state. Fast chargers are currently free for NRMA members and non-members alike. Non-members are expected to be charged soon. Whilst in Queensland, the QESH costs approximately 20 cents per kilowatt hour. AMS members may also receive discounts when using the Chargefox EV network. Compatibility: most EVs that use a CCS Type 2 or CHAdeMO plug, you can get one of those for your Tesla. So basically Teslas can use their own network and additional networks. Chargefox. Chargefox is a private company that offers arguably the widest fast charging EV network in Australia. Having received investment from Greg Roebuck, founder of Car Sales, Australian Motoring Services and grants from the Victorian Government and the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, it currently has fast chargers in every state and territory except for the Northern Territory. Apart from its wide availability, Chargefox is notable for offering some of the fastest charging stations available in Australia, with certain stations featuring 350 kilowatt ultra-fast DC chargers designed by Australian company Tritium, who, once again, as I've said before, we'll talk about later. Notably, these ultra-rapid chargers are all powered by renewable energy sources. Certain electric vehicles that make use of an 800-volt architecture, such as the Porsche Taycan, Hyundai Ioniq 5, and forthcoming BYD cars coming to Australia can take advantage of these high charging speeds to quickly charge from 10 to 80% in less than 30 minutes. The Chargefox network also features a range of 50 kilowatt and 100 kilowatt fast charging stations. And I should add that Tesla's vehicles can charge, well, Model 3 and Model Y can charge it up to 250 kilowatt, so they can take advantage of those speeds as well. Now, geographic spread. Every state and territory except for the Northern Territory number 22 ultra-rapid 350 kilowatt charging stations, over 1,400 chargers in total. That number is growing daily. Speed up to 350 kilowatt peak at an ultra-rapid charging station. Other chargers have peak speeds of 22 kilowatts, 50 kilowatts, and 100 kilowatts. Cost. The cost varies on your location and the charger speed, but it ranges from 25 cents per kilowatt hour to 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Some chargers may use a compound fee structure that combines a lower per kilowatt hour charging rate with an additional per minute fee. Compatibility, most using a CCS Type 2 or shade mode plug. The networks described above are not the only players in Australia. There are also rapidly expanding charging networks from EV networks, ChargePoint, and EV Up. As you can see, there's quite a number of networks and they're increasing over time. Now, I should note, guys, that peak charging speeds from Porsche and Hyundai are actually just marketing. They're not actually true. Porsche Taycan has been downgraded to 255 kilowatt max charging speed. And the reason for this is because charging at 350 kilowatt causes pretty significant battery degradation. So Porsche doesn't want its customers to go through that experience. Hyundai will obviously market their new vehicles as having 350 kilowatt, but obviously they will similarly probably restrict the charging to 250 kilowatt. However, 250 kilowatt fast charging is still very good and is still an excellent industry standard, which will be shared in future, well, currently also by Tesla, Hyundai, and Porsche. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.